What's going on, folks? It's Kiss Shirley Gaming Nation. My channel. Here you will see my channel. Click the like and just I'm replying to somebody about uh I'm replying to this comment. Japan can sue like Egypt suing Netflix for lying about historic figure. Then I replied. I forgot what my reply was, but this guy replied to me. He said, "I guess the obvious issue is that at least they're written well. And I assume, anyways, I know the last Samurai was actually received really well." Well, I think I commented that, well, they didn't have an issue with Last Samurai. Well, today, I'm going to go into who is Sasuke and who he really was. All right, so let me stop sharing that. Okay, give me a second. Let me go into this right here. Okay, now to begin, um, in general, for the genuine people, both the American fan base and the Japanese fan base who have a genuine issue, and your genuine issue is that you want to see Assassin's Creed depict Japanese male protagonist in an Assassin's Creed set to a time period in Japan, which I agree with that. I agree that if you want to make an Assassin's Creed set into Japan, you want to see some Japanese male protagonists. Even though there's a Japanese female protagonist, you don't acknowledge that Japanese female protagonist, even though she's a protagonist. But I get the in general issue about the game itself, right? People wanted to see a Assassin's Creed set in a timeline where you see set in a timeline, especially about Nobunaga, and how Nobunaga was a very important figure for the Japanese because he set the foundation work for unifying Japan during the time of feudal lords and shogun and samurai, which I can understand that. Um, I see a lot of people debating over who was Yasuke and was Yasuke, and even though Yasuke was a historical figure during that time to Nobunaga, they're trying to say if he wasn't a samurai or if he was just a retainer. And I'm going to go into that a little later on in the video, and this and that. So I want to go through a brief history based upon what is being said on the internet. I'm fully aware of that a lot of these articles are being done fairly recently. This one being done or published during 2019. Um, I'm fully aware of that. I'm not going to really do anything about Wikipedia because I don't trust Wikipedia. Wikipedia, you can alter and edit the sources there. So I'm gonna try to find articles. I don't have articles pulled up that go as far back as 2013. Um, then in the last closing of the video, I'm gonna kind of freestyle with my thoughts on what I think and how I feel. So let's begin. This is part of ADF magazine, Yasuke the African Samurai. All right. So let's see what ADF stands for. Oh, this is some other shit. My bad. Um, Africa Defense Forum. So this is Yasuke the African Samurai. It was last updated July 19, 2021. So it was posted, but it got updated. So we don't know what the original post was. Um, According to the staff, almost 500 years ago, a man named Yasuke drew crowds wherever he went in Japan. He was the first foreign-born man to become a samurai. Now, the discrepancy with him becoming a samurai is that he was just a retainer and not really a samurai. And we're going to go into that later. One of Japan's elite warrior caste. Now, samurai being like the knights or even the gentlemen in Britain or during the Victorian age, samurai to me, it seems like to be a high ranking warrior caste, as I say caste, right? Because as far as I know, that a samurai can get its own fief, which is like a dowry almost, where they have their own land, their own money, and etc. and they have like I guess they're high political status too. Like if you go watch, if you play the video game Halo, if you go play that video game called Halo, in the video game Halo, the elites, um, those elites with those ceremonial helmets, they're kind of that sit on the council or council of high charity. They're kind of like the same thing almost. Let's continue. He also was the first and only black man most Japanese people ever seen. A fellow samurai described him at the time as being stunningly tall, and his skin was like charcoal. Now, this article is saying a fellow samurai, fellow samurai described him at the time as being stunningly tall, and his skin was like charcoal. He's believed to have been 1.88 meters tall, towering over Japanese men who average 1.6 meters tall. So I guess in 1.88 means like over 6 feet, and 1.6 meters is like 5 feet or something like that. He's given a name at his given name is not his given name. So his original birth name was not known. So his given name is not known. Yasuke, pronounced Yasuke, was a Japanese name. He arrived in Japan in 1579. Historians believe, so this is historians saying this, believed he was a native of Portuguese Mozambique, but others say he may have come from Ethiopia or Nigeria. Some historians insist that he was a slave, but others say that he could not have become an accomplished samurai so quickly without having come from a warrior background. And this is the part where they go into who he was according to the Jesuits or when he was with the Jesuits. He may have been the first black man to set foot in Japan. So he may have been, so they don't really know. He may have been. He was traveling with an Italian Jesuit and attracted the attention of the warlord Odu. I keep saying Obu, but it's Oda. Oda Nobunaga. Oda Nobunaga, that's the name. Who was trying to unify the country and become its shogun, a sole military ruler. Yasuke is said to also have visited India before arriving in Japan. So that means that he was in India already. He was in other places before Japan. In India, they have a similar complexion to African people, African folks. I guess with Indians, they have more different facial features. They don't really have the negroid facial features like the big nose, the nappy hair, but they have similar complexions to each other. Yasuke is said to also have visited India before arriving in Japan, which would have intrigued Nobunaga. One historian that Nobunaga also would have appreciated that, unlike the Jesuits, Yasuke had no religious agenda. Almost immediately after meeting Yasuke, Nobunaga gave him a considerable amount of money. Okay, so why would Nobunaga give a slave or somebody who was just a retainer a lot of money? All accounts concur on Yasuke's great intelligence. He learned to speak Japanese quickly and well. He would never have risen in Japanese society without it. So, if you're saying that Yasuke was just a retainer, but Nobunaga treated him better than that by giving him. Now, the argument on the internet is that because he was a retainer and he wasn't really a samurai, and he was just a servant or a pet, and you can hear some of the racist undertones by the way people say it. Now, talk about the genuine in general crowd of folks that are on the general folks that would be that are talking about their issues with the game. But you hear a lot of hidden racism that when they say, "Yo, Yasuke was nothing more than just a retainer. He was just a pet or a servant." You can hear the racist undertone of a few of the people that are doing YouTube videos and are typing in the comment section or in the chat. So you can hear and see it. Now, now, uh, Yasuke and Nobunaga was similar. Okay, so now to go back, right? So in order for him to be a retainer, now I'm gonna go into that later. They're saying here that he would have never reached or have risen in Japanese society without it, without being intelligent and without to speak Japanese. He had to have learned to speak Japanese if he had to be somebody close to Nobunaga, or Nobunaga to have him around him to carry his weapons or be his bodyguard. And he had to have learned being able to speak Italian if he was the bodyguard to an Italian Jesuit around him. So, so you have to take that into mind and use some critical thinking and common sense and logic, right? Yasuke and Nobunaga were similar. Both sought the company of disciplined and intelligent people. Filmmaker Floyd Webb said that while Nobunaga was a fan of Noah, a form of classical musical drama, Yasuke liked to dance and perform utenzi, a type of Swahili narrative poetry celebrating heroic deeds. Nobunaga made Yasuke his weapon bearer, a complex role combining senior aide, trusted advisor, and keeper of state secrets. So they're saying that on the internet that he was just a weapon bearer. They don't substantiate on the internet or on YouTube or in the chats. They don't describe what a weapon bearer is. Now, if you were outside of Japanese culture, you don't know what it means to be a weapon bearer according to them. You're gonna think he was just carrying around his weapon, but according to this, a weapon bearer was a complex role combining senior aide, trusted advisor, and keeper of state secrets. So being a weapon bearer, according to in Japanese or Japanese culture at the time, was something of importance. And I'm going to look up into this while I'm doing this too. Yasuke at the time as a samurai, hold on, let me see something. Weapon bearer. We go look up what a weapon bearer is. We go look up what a weapon bearer is. Weapon bearer. Uh, weapon bearer. Let me go up to Google right quick. Okay. Weapon bearer, according to the Oxford Dictionary. All right, so let me come off of sharing this. Go back to the live stream and let me share something else. Um, give me a second. Let's share this. This is to the Oxford Dictionary. Weapon bearer, it's a noun. All right. There is one meaning to OED's or Oxford Dictionary's entry for the noun weapon bearer. See meaning and use. So we're going to go to the meaning and use. And it even tells you the date. So something that was used as early as the mid 1500s. Let's look up meaning and use. Oh, I can't even look it up. Oh, that's fucked up. Okay, so we gonna look somewhere else. We're gonna look somewhere else. Stop sharing. Shit, you gotta purchase a subscription to look up definition words. That's fucking crazy. Um, they even have they even have they even say, and when I type in weapon bearer, it references it to people talking about Yasuke. So, according to what people are saying on the internet, that a weapon bearer was just somebody that carries around the weapons. I swear to God, I do not want to look at Wikipedia. All right, so let's look at this one. Let's look at this one. Okay, this is something from the Red Cross. Let's share this one. Let's share this one. This is something from the Red Cross. Dialogue with weapon bearers. It is those who carry weapons who can kill and be killed. It is also they who can facilitate or hinder humanitarian action. The International Committee of the Red Cross therefore maintains dialogue with all weapon bearers, state and non-state, as part of our mandate to protect and assist people affected by war and other violence. So I guess this is a weapon bearer according to the modern times. Now, what I'm looking for, um, so I guess if you were the Red Cross and you were going to a foreign state, um, you would have weapon bearers, something like a security or bodyguard, like with Nobunaga, where you would protect the Red Cross people who are being of service to that country or servicing that country. It would help or aid, right? So let's stop here and let me go look for a definitive definition of the word weapon bearer. I would have looked in Oxford Dictionary, but you got to pay for that motherfucker, which is ridiculous. I don't want to look in. I don't want to look in. Okay, okay. So this is something called Kintaro Publishing. Kintaro Publishing. Okay. Which this is something I'm actually gonna one of the materials I'm gonna actually be looking up. No, I'm not gonna use that yet. Because it gives the weapon bearer according to from Yasuke or what it means to Yasuke. I want to see a weapon bearer in general, what it means in general. A definitive argument to what it is. They even have a mace bearer too. I see something else here. Damn. I could look up some biblical stuff too. Weapon bearer definition. All right, so I'm gonna look up Japanese weapon bearer. Shit, it goes right back to Yasuke. I want to actually go into this that I'm seeing right here too, and I'm going to go on there because I want to look up conflict. I want to look up the sources that debunk it or try to debunk it. Weapon bearer. Shit. Um, Give me a second. what a weapon bearer who carries weapons who can kill and be killed. So, by the terms of weapon bearers as used by the Red Cross people, regular armed forces, police forces, paramilitary groups, armed opposition groups, and private military and security firms. See, it's funny to me that when you had Tom Cruise up there playing as a samurai in The Last Samurai, and you had Scott Adkins playing a ninja, ain't nobody was trying to debunk that. And the movie based upon The Last Samurai, that event was actually a historical event that happened. So if Japanese had a rule that you did not allow outsiders to become a samurai, why did you allow a white guy, a white person, to become a samurai? See what I'm saying? Because that's a historical event. And no, see, I'm going to save that for later. Okay, so basically, a weapon bearer is basically the security guard, or basically the security guard to whatever high position person. In this case, Nobunaga, he was a shogun, or in the case of Red Cross, some kind of security detail or armed person, weapon bearer. As I say, weapon bearer, a complex role combining senior aide, trusted advisor, and keeper of state secrets. Yasuke's time as a samurai is brief. By 1582, only 2 years since Yasuke had become a Japanese warrior, Nobunaga had become the most powerful warlord in the country in his quest to unify the country under his rule. He had destroyed the rival Takada clan earlier that year at the Battle of Tenmokuzan, giving him control of central Japan. Nobunaga's only remaining rival were Mori, Usa, Usuji, and Hojo clans. Each clan had internal problems of its own. In June 1582, he went to battle against the Mori clan. He split his army and rode off with Yasuke and 29 other trusted soldiers. Why would Nobunaga be so confident to ride off with Yasuke if he was just a weapon bearer caddy carrying his weapons? You see what I'm saying? He would just left his ass at the castle. 29 other trusted soldiers. While 31 men rested at the temple of Hon no Ji, 13,000 soldiers serving under Akachi Mis, Mis, I don't know how to say that word. Sorry, Japanese people. One of Nobunaga's trusted generals ambushed and attacked him. The temple was set on fire, and with the situation hopeless, Nobunaga carried out the ritual suicide known as seppuku. Yasuke is said to have been the only survivor of the ambush. He later was captured and made to stand before Mitsuhide, who called him an animal, but spared his life and commanded that he be returned to the Jesuits. He may have spent his remaining years as a mission in Kyoto. No one knows. The story of Yasuke lives on, particularly in Japan, where he's best remembered in an award-winning children's book. He has been the subject of documentaries, more books, and even featured in comic books and video games. So the fact that in Japan they're making children books and documentaries about this person, why is everybody being upset now? They should have been upset at the time of them making children books and comics about this person. So obviously he was in Japanese culture and integrated into Japanese culture. So really and truly, is Ubisoft wrong for doing this? This is what's being said in their culture. I want to look at something else. Read another piece of literature. I want to look up another piece of literature. Okay, so here's a drawing. This is a 1605 drawing of a black sumo wrestler made to depict Yasuke. So even if this is not Yasuke or not, we know that Yasuke was 6 foot tall and he had the strength of 10 men. So, like, so what is this? Obviously, it was either a black person or this was Yasuke, right? Let's continue. Seconds into the first episode of Netflix, let's talk about Yasuke, that Netflix series that came out. Viewers witness a massacre. Viewers witness a massacre. Hundreds of warriors lie dead near Honnoji Temple in Kyoto, Japan. The year is 1582, and flames envelop the area surrounding the fallen. Inside the temple, a black samurai named Yasuke has a tense conversation with the Japanese Daimyo warlord Oda Nobunaga. While Nobunaga is resigned to his fate, Yasuke remains hopeful the pair can evade their enemies and live to fight another day. All that is left for me is an honorable debt, Nobunaga tells Yasuke. The Daimyo pierces a sword through his own abdomen before asking Yasuke, what is he waiting for? Letting out a loud scream. The samurai lifts his sword to decapitate Nobunaga, completing the warlord's ritual, suicide, or seppuku. Then talks about the series. And here it goes. Who is Yasuke? Not much is known about Yasuke's early life. Some historians speculate he was born in Mozambique, Ethiopia. This is by the Smithsonian Magazine, by the way. Or Nigeria. Thomas Lasky, who wrote a book, or the co-author of the book, African Samurai, the true story of Yasuke, a legendary black warrior in feudal Japan, says it's possible Yasuke was enslaved and trafficked as a child, but believes he was a free man by the time he met uh, Alessandro I don't know how to say that last name. Sorry to the Italians. An Italian Jesuit missionary. The duo traveled from India to Japan in 1579. Yasuke essentially serving as, sorry for the Italians, Valgiano's bodyguard. So, if he was a bodyguard to this Italian Jesuit. If you have to be a bodyguard, that means that you have to have some kind of training, warrior training. Yasuke was employed, and quote, was employed as a muscle because missionaries aren't allowed to have weapons, unquote. So the missionary wasn't allowed to have weapons, but Yasuke, because he was a bodyguard, was allowed to. Lockley says, and I quote, Japan at the time was in the middle of a brutal century of civil war, and therefore Vigilano needed somebody to look after him, unquote. And I guess this is the picture depicting of this person. The civil war in question began in 1467 with the collapse of Sakagi shogunate, which I guess is the shogun of that time, which left rival feudal lords vying for control of Japan. These clashes continued through the mid 1500s when Nobunaga consolidated power by unifying half the island's nation under his ruthless regime. Yasuke first crossed paths with Nobunaga in 1581 when Vigilano requested permission from the warlord to leave the country. A customary practice in the era before passports, according to Lockley, Nobunaga was fascinated by the color of Yasuke's skin, which he initially believed it to be covered in black paint. As Lockley explains, the Daimyo ordered Yasuke to be washed, but his skin color remained unchanged. Nobunaga threw a welcome party for his visitor, who officially entered his service soon after. So Nobunaga threw a party for this nigga. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna look up the chronicle of the chronicle. It's an actual book. The Chronicle of Lord Nobunaga. I'm gonna find that book. A 7th century book written of Nobunaga's followers described Yasuke as appearing to be 26 or 27 years old. This man looked robust and had a good demeanor. What is more is his formidable strength surpassed that of 10 men. This is from the Chronicles of Lord Nobunaga, a 7th century book written by one of Nobunaga's followers. All right. What is more, his formidable strength surpassed that of 10 men. This is from a book, and I quote, other chronicles characterize the samurai as intelligent, imposing figure who stood 6 feet tall. Sorry for that quote I made earlier. Though Yasuke was already a skilled warrior, he likely underwent additional martial arts training upon joining Nobunaga's army. Because, let me read that slowly. Though Yasuke was already a skilled warrior, he likely underwent additional martial arts training upon joining Nobunaga's army. Now, if you're a weapons barrier and your job is to be a bodyguard to Nobunaga, and because he was already a bodyguard towards an Italian Jesuit or missionary, he had some warrior training already, and they had to give him additional martial arts training because if he was walking around with Nobunaga as his bodyguard, being a retainer, as you niggas like to say, or you folks on the YouTube want to say, and he was joining Nobunaga's army, that means he had the martial training, or at least some of it. Now let's look up the picture. It says that the individual in the green in the third panel from the left is thought to be Nobunaga. The black sumo wrestler in the fourth panel from the left may be Yasuke, right? In 16th century Japan, the title of samurai spoke to rank and was loosely defined as a warrior in the service of lord or another warrior. By 1581, Nobunaga employed thousands of samurai. Yet Yasuke was the first foreign-born warrior to enter their ranks. He belonged to a very small, unquote, a very small, but he belonged to, I quote, the very small entourage around Nobunaga, which was probably around 30 to 50 warriors. Many young men, many of whom were Nobunaga's luck. Well, damn. Oh, no. That's probably why they put the nigga in the show. And I'm going to talk about that later. Lovers as well. Lockley, unquote, Lockley says traditionally older warriors like Nobunaga, then in his early 50s, mentioned younger warriors and developed sexual relations with them. No evidence indicates that Yasuke and Nobunaga were lovers. So now I know why motherfucking Ubisoft put the nigga in there. Now I know why Ubisoft did it. Ooh. Woo. But okay. Though Yasuke was the only black samurai in Nobunaga's army, he was by no means the only African present in Japan. Also, he wasn't the only African president there. And let's read this, and I quote, several hundred African people lived in Japan during the 16th century, says Doan. They worked as interpreters, soldiers, entertainers. So there were black Japanese folks, or black Africans, not Japanese, but African people who lived in Japan and they were soldiers and soldiers. So why couldn't Ubisoft do something about that? You know what I'm saying? So now I can look at what the hidden, maybe may or may not be the hidden reason why they put Yasuke in there because of this and more. She says that Kyoto's Japanese residents would have been surprised by Yasuke's foreignness, but likely wouldn't have exhibited prejudice based on his skin color. According to Lockley, Nobunaga was a powerful man whom few were willing to challenge, so his decision to employ Yasuke wasn't controversial. And the fact, the samurai proved to be quite popular among locals who flocked to catch a glimpse of him. So according to these stories, if Nobunaga would have employed him as a samurai, who the fuck was going to check Naga? You know what I'm saying? Here's this part where people are saying that Yasuke surrendered and he left because he was a punk during the final stand. Let's read what this says. Yasuke's final stand. Yasuke joined Nobunaga during the last months of the feudal lords unification campaign. Quote, his strategy was to impose peace by force of arms, unquote. Lockley says he would quite happily wipe out 10,000 people if he thought it would forward the aim of peace, unquote. Nobunaga was close to completing his goal of consolidating control of Japan. His efforts came to an abrupt close after one of his trusted generals, Akichi Mitsuhide. Sorry if I can't say that name properly, Japanese. So basically, this person betrayed Nobunaga. On June 21st, 1582, this person ambushed Nobunaga in Kyoto while they were en route to a battle. This person had thousands of troops under his command. Nobunaga was accompanied by just 30 or so of 30 or so men from his inner circle, including Yasuke. So this is saying Nobunaga brought Yasuke with him. So why would he have Yasuke if he's just a retainer, as you guys on the internet like to say and on YouTube like to say, and he was just a weapons bearer? Why would he bring this person into battle with him and have him around doing if he was just a servant performing tricks and carrying his weapons? But whatever. The person who rebelled against Nobunaga brought 13,000 troops into Kyoto. So damn. So it was literally 13,000 slain against 30. Mitsuhide, also I said I'm gonna say it properly. Mitsuhide's men slaughtered many of the soldiers in Nobunaga's entourage during the initial ambush. Eventually, Nobunaga, Yasuke, and an attendant named Ranmaru, the feudal lord's lover at the time, retreated to one of the temple's chambers. It was there that Nobunaga performed seppuku, using a sword to slice open his abdomen before Ranmaru beheaded him. So it's saying that Yasuke wasn't the, also oh, I was about to say Ranamaru then also performed septic, asking Yasuke in turn to decapitate him. Oh shit. So the person who actually beheaded Nobunaga was Ranamaru, which was his lover. Ranamaru then also performed seppuku, asking Yasuke in turn to decapitate Ranamaru. Wow. So Yasuke didn't perform seppuku or decapitate Nobunaga. It was Ranamaru. But Yasuke did perform seppuku, or when Ranamaru performed seppuku, Yasuke decapitated Ranamaru. That's crazy. So, in quote, if you're going to die anyway, you must as well die quicker by your own hand and retain some honor. Unquote, Loki. Once Nobunaga and Ranamaru were dead, Yasuke escaped from the temple with his lord's head intact. By protecting Nobunaga's remains, Yasuke denied Mitsuhide the chance to seize his enemy's head and displayed it as a way of establishing legitimacy and power. The reason behind, and quote, the reason behind Mitsuhide's betrayal of Nobunaga is one of the great mysteries of Japanese history. Unquote. Don says that there are many stories, not all of them historical, verifiable, of what could have led to Honoji's incident. Not much is known about Yasuke's fate after the ambush. According to Loki, he may have been badly wounded and captured as one of the last survivors of Nobunaga's inner circle. The last known record of Yasuke is described him being escorted to a Jesuit mission by Mitsuhai's warriors. What we do know, says on, is that Mitsuhai did not execute Yasuke. Loki speculates that Mitsuhai spared Yasuke to gain support of a Jesuit missionary. His usurping general lacked allies and only survived Nobunaga by a few days. Only on July 2nd, one of Nobunaga's retainers. So hold on. Y'all like to say that Yasuke was just a retainer or rep there. But here, another one of Nobunaga's retainers, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, defeated Mitsuhide at the Battle of Yamazaki. So that means that this person here, even though he was Nobunaga's retainer too, was a warrior able to challenge this person and beat him at the Battle of Yamazaki. Hideyoshi went on to become Japan's second great unifier, uniting the entire country by 1590. So what are you guys saying on the internet that, you know, uh, Yasuke was just a retainer and Yasuke was just a weapon bearer? He didn't really do much. Well, apparently, he was very much involved in this battle. And right here goes another person that was a retainer that was able to go against a traitor, beat him, and became a unifier of the entire country. This is a retainer. And I'm going to look up what a retainer means in Japanese culture. Despite the lack of concrete Yasuke in pop culture, despite the lack of concrete information about Yasuke, the samurai's life has inspired a range of adaptations. In 1968, Japanese author Kuroshi Yoshio published Kyusuke. Damn, I gotta improve my communication. I gotta improve my speech. I gotta improve a lot of things about myself, which I will. Might have to study and learn how to speak some Japanese. In 1968, Japanese author Kiyosuke, or yeah, Kirusho Yoshiru published Kurosuke, a children's book that dramatized Yasuke's stories. More recent titles about the word, including Loki's 2019 book, co-written with J. Gerard, and Jamal Turner's 2020 children's book, Yasuke: The Legend of the African Samurai. Yasuke also shows up in 27 video game Noi, which is set during the Sengoku period. I'm going to look up that game. In 2019, Chadwick Boseman, perhaps best known for portraying the I don't know eponymous superhero in Marvel's Black Panther, signed on to play Yasuke in an upcoming film. Damn, unfortunately. Rest in peace, rest in power, Chadwick Boseman. If he was gonna play Yasuke, that would have been fucking amazing. The legend of Yasuke is one of history's best kept secrets. The only person of non-Asian origin to become a samurai, the actor told Deadline. That's not just an action movie, that's a cultural event, an exchange, and I'm excited to be part of it. Bosman died of colon cancer in August 2020, leaving the project's future uncertain. Production on a live action film may be stalled, but that hasn't stopped other creatives from offering their own takes on Yasuke. Let's talk about the Netflix show. Since Yasuke doesn't have an own estate, no one owns his character. His story was up for interpretation, which that's important to say because Assassin's Creed has always twisted or they may have done some historical things, but they twisted and bend the historical facts with their own vision to it. And I'm going to go into that a little bit, but I want to look at something here. Let's go back to here. Sharing, share something. Let's look up this Oceana. For those of you with this retainer argument, doesn't this is the retainer armor? Doesn't this look like the armor that Yasuke wears, or similar to the armor that Yasuke wears? Doesn't it look like it? I'm pretty sure it does. Look at this. This is a of retainer armor. Retainer refers to a vessel in feudal Japan, usually a samurai providing military service. This suit dates around the 1850, and although decorative, it is more restrained and practical than many samurai armors. The cuirass is made to look like it is constructed of, I don't know what that word is, small lace plates, but it's actually made of larger pieces. Much of the lacing has been concealed and woven, concealed and wooden components have been lacquered back to get, oh shit, lacquered black, my bad, to give a simpler appearance overall. Right here, the large crescent moon forecast on the helmet is a Buddhist symbol for the impermanence of life and may refer to the samurai's concept of ultimate sacrifice in the name of duty. So a retainer is considered to be a samurai. And look at the armor. Look at this armor. Stop sharing this, and I'm going to share something else. Look at that armor, and let's look at this. Look at something else here. Oh, give me a second. 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 Look up here. Look. Look at this armor. Look at this armor. This is the chick. You know what's so funny? None of y'all complaining about this chick as much as y'all complaining about Yasuke. Look at the armor here. All right. Let's go look for some more photos of the armor. Look at the armor. Okay. Let's stop sharing this. Let's stop sharing that one. Look at that armor. And let's go back to sharing this. This is what a retainer is, according to Japanese culture. A retainer, according to Japanese culture. And in here, it says retainer refers to a vessel in feudal Japan, usually a samurai providing military service. For those of you on the internet that are just saying that Sasuke was just a weapon bearer and he was equivalent to a servant or a caddy and he was a retainer, he wasn't a really samurai. Right here, it says that a retainer wearing this armor is a samurai. So you got to come up with a different. Okay, let me look at retainer. Retainer. Now, retainer, according to modern times, let me go to Google. Hold on. Google. Inner meaning. Now, according to the Collins Dictionary, let me share it. Let's share it. Retainer to the American Dictionary. A retainer is a fee that you pay someone in order to make sure that they will be available to do work for you if you need them to. I'll need $500 retainer. So this is for a modern time. It's kind of like you're going for a lawyer or something, looking for a lawyer. Retainer, a person or thing that retains, person serving another, ESP, someone of rank, servant, attendant, adherent, etc. Any of several devices used to retain, growth, bearing, or held, a device designed to hold teeth. So um, it's a noun here, law. This is a retainer in law, right? It's a noun. The act of engaging the service of a lawyer, consulting, etc. A fee paid in advance to make such service available when needed. Well, as I read, Nobunaga did pay Yasuke, which means that he was more than just a slave. And as I read before, that a retainer can be a samurai, as I just showed you before, and a retainer, one of Nobunaga's troops, avenged him, and he was a retainer, and he fought the traitor Mitsuhide and became one of the unifiers of Japan. So retainer can mean a lot more than just that. Okay. Okay, here's what I'm gonna challenge next. Let's look up Noi. This is a Noi game. This is the Noi game. This is a white male protagonist that none of you are complaining about. This is a game because Assassin's Creed Shadows is a context of a video game. None of you are complaining about why isn't there not a Japanese protagonist in this one. None of you complain about that. Not the American media, not the Japanese media. And this is for Sony, right? Now, the main one I want to look into first is the 47 Ronin. Now, this is the 47 Ronin. The 47 Ronin are faithful retainers. Again, this is where the retainer comes in. And this is updated August 2017 by Callie. I don't know how to say that last name. 46 warriors stealthily crept upon the mansion and scaled the walls. I'm not going to read all of that. So let's read this part. To tell of the 47 Ronin's most famous 47. Hold on. Let me slow down. The tale of the 47 Ronin is one of the most famous in Japanese history, and it is a true story. During the Tokugawa era in Japan, the country was ruled by the shogun, a highest military official in the name of the emperor. Under him were a number of regional lords, the Daimyo, which was Obunaga, each of whom employed a contingent of samurai warriors. All of these military elites were expected to follow the code of Bushido, the way of the warrior. Among the demands of Bushido were loyalty to one's master and fearlessness in the face of death. Let's read here. The 47 Ronin are faithful retainers. In 1701, the Emperor Higashiyama sent imperial envoys from his seat at Kyoto to the shogun's court at Edo, Tokyo. A high shogunate official, Kiru Yoshinaka, apparently now I can pronounce the damn names, served as masters of ceremonies, kind of like an MC, for the visit. Two young daimyos, Asano Naganori or of Aku, I can't say those words, can't say the name of those people, so sorry, Japanese. So this person, which if you go watch the 47 Ronin, the names sound familiar, right? Of looking after the emperor's envoy. So basically, this person, Kira, which in the movie was a in the movie he was a villain, but in this one, Kira, I guess, was Oh, I think who's Kira in the movie? I think Kira was supposed to be one of the samurai. Well, as it describes here, I can't remember in the movie, but this is telling you a historical event that happened, right? So I want to go down here to because I'm not going to read all of this, but basically, this is the event, an actual event, the 47 Ronin. This is something that actually happened. Faithful retainers. Now let me see. Let me see. Read this. Kiro was assigned to train Dayamo in court etiquette. Asano and Kayami offered gifts to Kiro, but the official considered them totally inadequate and was furious. He began to treat the two Dayamos with contempt. Kami was so angry about humiliation. So basically, this is a real thing that happened. Nowhere in this event does it mention Keanu Reeves' character in the movie The 47 Ronin. And I'm going to prove that. All right. So let's look up. So let me start sharing this. All right. So now what I'm going to share now. This is a. Hold on, give me a second. So I just want to point out that the 47 Ronin were classified as retainers. I wonder what y'all going to say about that now. Obviously, the retainer was more than just a damn servant, according to Japanese culture. This is a movie review, right? They talk about, and he's saying in this article, I'm not going to read the top. He says that the 47 Ronin is based on a historical event. Remember, according to you guys on YouTube and according to you guys in the chat, specifically to the racist folks that are talking, and even though I understand the in general thought from both Japanese and American media, I'm not going to say all of you are racist. It's just a very few small minority of people that's thinking that way. But in general, this is to everybody. According to y'all, Assassin's Creed was a historical event set in a place during the era of Nobunaga. And your argument is that um, even though Yasuke was a historical person, he wasn't really a samurai or he was just a retainer, he was a servant. When I just read earlier that he was more than just that. He was actually a samurai. You know what I'm saying? So that's what the literature is saying. But let's go here with 47 Ronin. 47 Ronin is based on a historical event. The movie differs from history in that it added a magical demon aspect by having Lord Kira be influenced by Kitsune, who uses magic at various points to provide reasons for events that happen in the historical incident. For instance, historically, Lord Kira was attacked because of his rudeness, which I just read. After prolonged abuse drove Lord Hasano to anger, and Hasano attacked him with a dagger. In the movie, Lord Kira is still a smug, rude ass, but the Kitsune uses magical spider venom to fog Asuno's mind, making him believe that Kira was raping his daughter. So he attacks Kira. The Kitsune is able to change shapes throughout the movie, appearing as a fox, a woman, and later a bearded dragon. The movie also introduced a half breed character, Kai, played by Keanu Reeves. Kai is a half breed son of a Dutch trader and Japanese peasant, left to die in the forest, saved from death by Tenju, and taught how to murder people with super fast sword magic. Kai, of course, was mistreated and abused by Lord Asano's samurai because he's a half breed, which, according to the historical events of Yasuke and Nobunaga, Keanu Reeves' character, which is a made up person, and as said that the historical events was twisted. Kai's character was treated worse than Yasuke. Go watch the movie. Let's continue to read. Uh, Even though Lord Asano has more or less taken to Kai in and occasionally employ him as a tracker, of course, Kai eventually wins over the samurai, earning their respect and a significant role in the plot to kill Kara. Kai, who occasionally gets to be a badass by accident, is in love with Lord Asano's daughter, Mika, who loves him in return. So, to the general audience, to the general folks who have a genuine disagreement with Assassin's Creed's having a black person who was an actual historical figure, that even if he was a retainer, he was a slave, he was just a weapon bearer or not, he was an actual samurai. He was still a historical figure left up to interpretation. Y'all upset with that, but you're not upset with this person, Kai, played by Keanu Reeves, who was a made up character meant to play an historical event in Japan. You're not upset with this. You accepted this, but you didn't accept motherfucking Yasuke. Which you can say back in that time, you could say that that was woke. The same as you're saying it's woke culture with Yasuke. 47 Ronin is woke. The difference is Keanu Reeves' character Kai was a made-up character. That's the difference. You can say that this was woke. This came back out in 2013, posted on January 10th, 2014. They're doing a movie review. Why you didn't call it woke then? Look what he wrote. This guy movie wrote. One, I'm really tired of the name white guy save the day. Or in this case, a half white. It's annoying and pissed me off that in The Last Samurai and annoying the piss out of me here, especially as in many ways both movies make the participation of the white guy necessary for any plot or plan to have success. Again, I'm for drop some bomb clot in there, say, you know, man. Because y'all are making a complaint, and I understand the honest complaint from the Japanese crowd that you wanted a Japanese male to play a protagonist. But the last two movies, Last Samurai with Tom Cruise, and and I'm gonna go into this to see if this was an actual event, which I'm looking up that it was. But with Keanu Reeves, this was a made up character, and you accepted it. You accepted that he fell in love with a pretty Japanese person, a Japanese individual. Hold on, did it not Dolph? What's his name? The tall Russian guy, or the guy that plays the tall Russian. Wasn't he like? Didn't he do the same thing? In one of your movies, he was the main white European protagonist, and you didn't have an issue with that. Okay, shit. I'm gonna shut this shit down today. Um, click the like, click the share. Those of you who are just entering the chat, we did a whole probably an hour. You can rewind the video and see what I did earlier. But here I'm up to the topic of where I'm talking about how just in 2013 they were cool with Keanu Reeves' character in 47 Ronin, and 47 Ronin was an actual historical event, and they accepted this made up character in that movie, but they won't accept Yasuke, who was an actual historical figure during that time, which is hypocritical now because back then you could have said that this is woke. Back then you could have said that this is woke. You could have said back then that this is a woke culture because they're pushing white men protagonists in Japanese film. So why did not the Japanese folks say they wanted to see a Japanese protagonist being the head of their but a Japanese male protagonist, the head of 47 Ronin? Okay, let's look up. Uh, let's look up uh, the Last Samurai. The Last Samurai. Let's look up the Last Samurai. And the Last Samurai received no backlash at all. Now, this is the Last Samurai. Now, the Last Samurai, according to this, depicted the actual event that happened. I guess some kind of rebellion at the time. As it says here, it says the Satsume Rebellion of 1877. So this is an actual event. Now, I'm going to skip over and go to how the film gets it wrong. It's based on the Satsume Rebellion. Why is it nothing like the rebellion? I'll leave some of these points alone and instead focus on the business. So this is a movie reviewing. This is a person reviewing the movie. And it's talking about historical histrionics portraying the past can get out of hand. Sometimes so can I. Now this is doing the Last Samurai show, changing Japanese history. See, and it was released in 2003. So how come in 2003 it wasn't considered woke having Tom Cruise being a white person, imposing their white manness onto a Japanese culture? All right. So let's go look this up. The movie wanted to pit the modern government against traditional samurai. and for this reason made some artistic choices that changed history. For example, the samurai did not decide they were too proud or honorable to use guns, and instead insist on fighting the army with swords, bows, and arrows. No matter how the effect might come off in the film, you're still left with the ridiculous notion that these men could come off as equals or win in a battle against guns. It's almost so. So I guess there was a scene in the movie where the samurai was fighting the modern people who had guns, and the samurai decided to not use guns, which I can agree to that. Let's look up what it talks about. Okay. Also, in vain traditional choices. The samurai at this time would not have been wearing this old armor. Apparently, the costume designers were aware of this, but the film was trying to make a point. The armor traditional samurai wars does look impressive, but they had moved on to more modern garment. In fact, Seigo, who had been part of the Meiji government before effectively retiring in 1873, wore his uniform when he fought. So this was a historical event that happened. And here we go. They're talking about Tom Cruise's character. While in the war would the Japanese government hire Nathan Elgin, played by Tom Cruise, to help their army? He's an alcoholic and terrible. This makes me so incredibly angry. Not to mention that Algren mopes along in his journal, trying to act sophisticated, while he in truth is just incredibly racist toward Native Americans and ruins everything. More on this later. Oh, the ninjas attack. So it's saying that the movie used ninjas. The token female character in this movie, used in the form of a delicate and lovely Taka, is an awful portrayal. Why would her brother force her to take care of the man who killed her husband? Why would the screenwriters have her fail and fall in love with the man who killed her husband? Most importantly, why would she ever have Algren wear her dead husband's armor? This is beyond ludicrous, and I despise every moment of it. Making Taka soft spoken and so basically what he's saying here. I don't remember the movie, and I have to go watch it again. But it's saying that there was a female character who who fell in love with a person that killed her father. Now this is what's written in Last Samurai. That you have this nigga who killed this chick's brother or father, having her to take care of him and falling in love with him, and y'all were cool with that. There was no big backlash. Okay, let's go here. This is him talking about them being a samurai. When Aldrin enters the samurai camp, he learns that they train with swords, diligently trying to become perfect. I would like to know then how, in the course of winter, he managed to become on par with the great swordsmasters of the village, and how is he able to fight off ninjas? Oh, isn't that your argument with Yasuke? That he couldn't have been a samurai for more than however long, and he had to be trained in various martial arts, and he couldn't have learned or mastered the ways of a samurai at the time. Wasn't that your argument with Yasuke? But here it is. Tom Cruise becoming a samurai and falling in love with the Japanese chick. This at this time, this could have been woke right here. A white male being a Japanese samurai at this time this movie was done. So I'm not going to read the rest of this. You guys can go read it yourself. I just wanted to read the part where. Oh, I want to read this. I'm going to read this. Furthermore, the use of Nathan Algren is incredibly insulting to Japanese history. Understanding and telling a story, movies. So at least this person who's reviewing this is critiquing this too. But this is this person's point of view. The rest of everybody else's point of view, especially you guys today complaining about Yasuke being a samurai, you didn't complain about this then. This is one person's point of view complaining about this movie. Furthermore, the use of Nathan Algren is incredibly assaulted to Japanese history. I understand today that in telling a story, movies like to use an outsider learning the ways of this new culture or world so that the audience can be introduced to it. However, Algren rarely tells us anything of importance. Learn that they strive to perfection and they fight well with swords. We don't learn anything about their code of honor, which, by the way, was not based on the right or wrong, but a set of expected things to do. Let me read this. If they wanted to use an outsider, why not use a Japanese actor? Maybe the young son of a samurai warrior learns about the way things used to be as he's raised in this world where everything is changing. So at least this person who's doing a point of view review is saying this. But the rest of the world at the time of Last Samurai in American media, it was sold as a bestseller. It was sold as you know, it got all kinds of awards at the time, and none of the American media, at least, complained about this. And right here it says, we have a white man help save Katsumoto's life and then convince him to stand up in an honorable rebellion. We have a white man wear traditional samurai armor. We have a white man help set up traps and lead victorious fighting. We have a white man help lead the samurai into their final stand. We have a white man help this great samurai commit seppuku. Ultimately, the only man who survives is white, and he is the one who inspired the emperor. Isn't that the same shit with Yasuke? The story I just read earlier. It is said that Yasuke was there when Obunaga committed seppuku, but it didn't say he led anything. It said that Yasuke was just a servant. He was just a retainer. He was just a weapon bearer. He was just a pet. But in this one, it says a white man wore the traditional samurai armor. He was an outsider. He led other samurai, and the samurai who were Japanese, who didn't consider outsiders as Japanese, allowed this white man to lead them to victory, and he inspired the emperor. And y'all accepted this motherfucking movie at the time. There was no complaint. Oh God. Again, to the Japanese folks, from your point of view, I understand your perspective. You saying you wanted a Japanese protagonist to play a Japanese man. I completely understand and I respect the hell out of that. To the American media, whether it be white men, black American men, Asian men who are in America, who have a genuine discrepancy or disagreement with Assassin's Creed Shadows, I see it from your point of view too, because you have a genuine, substantial argument to why you disagree with it being a black character. I understand that part. But my pushback with you guys is that there have always been white male protagonists, like with Naruto, like with Last Samurai, like with 47 Ronin, and you guys accepted that. You guys have accepted that. 47 Ronin, as I pointed out earlier, Keanu Reeves' character was a made up person. He was a made up character. This one, as I said, this is more glorified. This more turns the truth from what it actually happened in the event. This put a white man as a samurai that was in leadership of samurai that inspired the emperor. This right here would be considered woke by what you say today, but what you guys are saying today. This was be considered woke. And this movie was done in 2003, and 47 Ronin was done in 47 Ronin was done, I think, in 2013. So how can you guys accept this in 2003, then accept 47 Ronin in 2013 when 47 Ronin, Keanu Reeves' character was made up? But you accepted those guys. You accepted them. But when it comes to Yasuke, an actual historical figure, y'all are in disagreement with that. And again, y'all keep saying that Yasuke was a retainer, blah 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 blah. He was just a weapon bearer, and etc. 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 Let me show you what a retainer is again. And you're saying he was just a retainer, so he really wasn't a samurai. Let me share to y'all what a retainer is again for the future people who's going to be looking at this. This is a retainer right here. Retainer, armor from Japan, Asia, collected by Edward Heath, given to the museum by Herford. Look at the armor that the retainer wears. Listen to look at this. This is a suit of retainer armor. Retainers referred to as vessels in feudal Japan, usually a samurai providing military service. This is a suit. This suit dates to around 1850, and although decorative, it it is more restrained and practical than many samurai armors. The cuirass is made to look like it's constructed. I don't know how to say that name, so forgive me. Small lace plates, but it's actually made of larger pieces, much of lacing. And y'all can read the rest of this. The large crescent moon forecast on the helmet is a Buddhist symbol of for the impermanence of life and may refer to the samurai concept of ultimate sacrifice in the name of duty. Something else. Isn't that armor representative of this? Doesn't that armor the armor looks just like this? Hold on, I'm gonna share. I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna do it again. Share the retainer to you again. I'm gonna share what a retainer is again. Oceana. Remember, the logic of everybody on the internet is that Yasuke was just a retainer. He wasn't really a samurai. Remember that. This is what everybody's saying. I'm gonna read this again. Retainer armor. This is a suit of retainer armor. A retainer refers to a vessel in feudal Japan, usually a samurai providing military service. This suit dates to around 1850, and although I'm not going to the rest of that, but you get the point. I'm going to share something else again. I want to go back to something else. I want to go back to um, let's go to back to the Smithsonian. I want to read this though. I want to read this. Marine Corps Air. This is from 2013, February 22nd, by Corporal Kenneth K. Trotter Jr., Marine Corps Air Station, Ikawana, Japan. So they were doing this during Black History Month, and they're talking about the legend of Yasuke. Some aspects of Yasuke are substantiated, others muddied through the ages, becoming the basis for the legend. Possibility of an African slave as the first of his kind in Japan. Indeed, somewhat true. Yasuke means the black one in Japanese. He's been erroneously given the name of Kyosan, which is a highly unlikely as the word "san" wasn't used that period of Japanese history. He was a slave who traveled to Japan with members of one of the several Italian missionaries groups that arrived in Japan. No one knows where Yasuke came from. Some unsubstantiated claims say he came from Mozambique, others say somewhere in the Congo. It is almost certain that he was from somewhere in Central or Western Africa, as that is the region where most slaves came from. Yasuke found himself at somewhat peculiar time in history, not only for himself but also involving the world. Two separate yet unique world events took shape during the time of his arrival in Japan. The transatlantic slave trade hits its stride. While the slave trade boomed in Western and Central Africa and the New World, political and social upheaval was taking place across Japan. Warlords vying for control of the country during the Sengoku period. This was soon brought to an end by the steel determination and military decisiveness of Oda Nobunaga, the Japanese warlord who laid the foundation for the unification of Japan. Another unsubstantiated claim is that Yasuke was the first person of African descent to ever set foot in Japan. If so, he was probably a sight to behold. Reports state that Yasuke's skin was dark as an ox, surprising the Japanese. He towered over those around him, even the Italians, as he was rumored to stand between 6'3" to 6.5 inches. There are conflicting reports as to how old Yasuke was when he arrived. Some say he was just a boy of 16 or 17. Other sources claim he was 26 or 27. In fact, he was created such a sensation that the news of the dark-skinned foreigner reached the ears of even Nobunaga himself, who requested Yasuke's presence to his castle. When Yasuke appeared before Nobunaga, the warlord forced him to strip and scrub him vigorously as Nobunaga believed that his black skin was painted on. I want to read this. When Yasuke receives the news of Nobunaga's death, he immediately withdrew to Noju Castle, the home of Nobunaga's heir, Oda Tsude. Sometime later, an attack by Mitsuhai's forces followed as well. Yasuke fought alongside Nobutsude's warriors and only surrendered his sword when the last of Nobutsude's warriors did likewise. So, one of the arguments on YouTube or in the chats of YouTube that I've seen is that uh, Yasuke surrendered and like a punk ran away. Now, here it says that the only reason why Yasuke surrendered was because his Nobutade's warriors surrendered. When asked what to do with his former slave, Mitsuhai dismissed him as an afterthought, saying Yasuke and those of the same hue as him were animals, and he was not a true samurai, not worth killing with that. Yasuke was taken back to Kyoto to the Jesuits. This is regrettably the end of Yasuke's tale. No one knows what became of Yasuke after he returned to the missionaries. He faded into obscurity and just blah, 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 blah. Here it is, right here. It says, though Yasuke was Nobunaga's servant or vessel, it was a step up from before when Yasuke was seen merely. I think this is a typo, as property and a beast of burden. Yasuke had a set of standards he probably never encountered before. He ate not only at the table with other Japanese, but often ate with Nobunaga and his family, and received money from Nobunaga and his brothers. Now, as you know, retainer, like in today's term, is a lawyer, and you have to pay your retainer. Apparently, it's the same thing back then too, where you had to pay your retainer to follow you around. So he was getting paid. Either Oda Nobukune or Oda no. Damn, I can't read these Japanese names, so to the Japanese, forgive me. Nobunaga was also impressed with Yasuke's great strength. Yasuke was not just a novelty item for Nobunaga, he allowed Yasuke to don his samurai armor and weapons during several instances in battle. Now, remember, I said that the retainer could be a vessel of samurai, as I showed you earlier. And he allowed Yasuke to have armor and weapons during several instances in battle. This is truly impressive, as traditionally, only those born into samurai families could become samurai, let alone wield their weapons and wear their uniforms, regardless of if they were warriors elsewhere. Though he was not considered a free man by most standards, he did not own it. Let me slow down. Though he was not considered a free man by most standards, he did not own any land of his own. He was essentially a samurai in name only. After Nobunaga allowed Yasuke to live with him for more than a year, Akechi Musuhide, one of Nobunaga's most trusted generals, betrayed Nobunaga at Honji and forced him to commit seppuku, or ritualistic suicide. Now, let me go into explanation to that, because there's an article that does a more of a breakdown into that. Um, was it this one? Yes. Um, so it says that the reason why Yasuke retreated, and I'm gonna put it right here. The reason why Yasuke retreated or ran away from that battle is because right here it says, once both Obunaga and Ranamaru were dead, Yasuke escaped the temple with his lord's head in tow. By protecting Nobunaga's remains, Yasuke denied Mitsuhide the chance to seize his enemy's head and display it as a way of establishing the legitimacy of and power. Now, a lot of you guys on the internet are saying that Yasuke ran away from the battle, or he ran away trying to imply that he was a punk. Well, right here it says the reason why he did that was to protect Nobunaga's remains, so that Mitsuhide would not gain any power by seizing his enemy's head. Right there. It says why he did that. Um Now I want to go into some other characters here. I want to go into some other characters here. Um let's see. Let me see. Give me a sec. I want to go. I'm not sharing this. My bad. I'm looking in my email. Y'all didn't see that. Share screen. I want to look into something else here. Um, I'm gonna look at this. I won't play the shirt here.
Yeah, and the baby. Goro is somewhere inside the jungles outside Rangoon. I'm going after him. You're going to Burma. It's suicide. It's justice.
Japanese men, you're not upset that this white guy Scott Adkins, and I love Scott Adkins by the
This is
way.
Goro's territory, isn't
I'm
it?
just making the argument. And you got a
Hit
lot of
me.
you are very cool, especially in the American audience, with a
Where's
white guy
Goro?
playing
Why
a
are you
ninja,
asking about Goro?
like
This
other
makes you a
Asian folks,
target.
other Japanese folks
I'm
that
telling
think
you to
there's a
live.
Japanese person, right? Being married to an Asian chick, they go kill their Asian wife. Now the white guy is going to
Man who
defend his
seeks
wife as
revenge
a ninja.
should dig two graves.
Is this not being woke? Is this not woke?
You're gonna need a lot more than that.
Is this not them forcing something onto your culture that did not exist? Is this not woke right here? But whatever. But okay. Now, what's funny to me with the prior Assassin Creeds, with the prior Assassin Creed games, one of the arguments is that they had a nationality of person represented um each of those Assassin Creeds. Where you had Ezzo, he was an Italian. You had Altair, that was an Arab. Guess what? They didn't do any historical to the point of those characters. I can agree with your argument that they were nationalities of that Pacific time period in those games, but they didn't do any historical accuracy of that of those characters, and nobody complained. But here you have a black guy now that was actually an historical character of of that time in Japan. And would you want to make the argument or not that he was an actual samurai? He was just a retainer. He was a weapons bearer. Fine, let's go with that argument because nobody really fucking knows. It's all hearsay. Fine. Um, you're you, the world in the American media and the Japanese media And those who are complaining about this, which you have a right to complain, I understand the argument. You have your right to your opinions. You didn't complain before when it was white men being the main protagonists in your movies and in your games. You wasn't calling it woke then. You didn't call Naruto woke when you had female ninjas and Naruto, a blonde headed blue eye person being the main character of your show and being the good person. Meanwhile, Sasuke that resembles the exact phenotype of what a Japanese person is supposed to look like. You didn't say that was woke. You didn't say Dragon Ball Z was woke. You didn't say Ninja Warrior or the clip I just showed with Scott Adkins is woke. You didn't say Last Samurai was woke. You didn't say Keanu Reeves in 47 Ronin was woke. Didn't say that at that time. Now you're saying this is woke. Now again, I understand from the Japanese men point of view is that you want to see a masculine Japanese character in your show and you're saying cultural appropriation. But guess what? To the Japanese. You have a whole hip hop culture over there that you culturally appropriate. You have a dancehall Jamaican culture over there that you culturally appropriate. And the Japanese, you like to culture appropriate a lot of things outside of your culture. Now, I'm going to be fair and not attach that to this because, again, I understand that the Japanese, both the American fans and the Japanese fans, saying they wanted an Assassin's Creed game that had a protagonist being Japanese. But do you have a Japanese protagonist that's a female? And now I'm not going to make this out that the in general disagreement by the genuine Japanese folks and the genuine American folks. I'm not going to sit up here and say that you guys hate women and you guys hate black men. I'm not going to say that because you can say you want a male lead in your games and still not hate women at the same time. That exists. So I dislike when people try to say, "Oh, you hate women. Oh, you hate black men." No, that's not the case. The honest people that have an honest disagreement are saying, "Yo, we wanted to see a Japanese male protagonist in the game," and I understand that. But from my point of view, I'm saying, well, you had white male protagonists in Japanese games, in Japanese movies, in yeah, basically that. And you didn't complain then. You didn't call it woke, and you were not upset then. But you're upset now. Doesn't make any sense. Um, I'm gonna freestyle here for a bit. Um, and this is gonna be my honest thoughts and opinions. Um, the fact that for years upon years in um, Japanese video games or Asian video games or Asian movies and Asian video games, American movies, American video games, where you had white men be the main protagonists of Japanese films, of Japanese games, with a white man. He comes in there, he's able to learn your culture, kick everybody ass, and get the Japanese chick. Or even in American media, you have Asian men that were protagonists of American movies, um, and it wasn't considered woke or cultural appropriation. Black culture accepted Jackie Chan and Jet Li. You know what I'm saying? Nobody called it woke when you had Lethal Weapon that had Danny Glover, Jet Li, and I forgot the other brother's name. Oh my god, I should feel ashamed that I forgot his name. But in Lethal Weapon, you had that there. Nobody called it cultural appropriation with Jet Li and Aaliyah. Hold on, Jet Li and Aaliyah. Jet Li and Aaliyah. That was not considered culturally appropriation. Jet Li has been a main protagonist, Asian protagonist, male, very masculine protagonist in American films, and it wasn't considered woke. It wasn't considered cultural appropriation, and black culture accepted him and loved him. Same with Jackie Chan. How the hell you gonna have Jackie Chan run around the Bronx kicking 6 foot big old black ass niggas ass like that? That's not gonna happen. But we love the movie. Black culture have always embraced and accepted Asian culture, whether it be Chinese, kung fu, their movies, etc., etc., etc. But the fact now that you have a black guy who was actually an historical figure that was part of a Japanese time period and event, and even though I will agree that it's mysterious and we can't really figure out who he was or who he was not, but the fact that everybody has an issue with this. And I know somebody's going to make the argument, well, what if there was an African Assassin Creed, which I'm going to get into, and they put an Asian character in there? Well, the base or the premise of your argument is that the Assassin's Creed takes place in a historical time frame. It was a historical that there was an Asian character in a African time frame. I doubt it. I highly doubt that there was a historical Japanese character or Asian character that was in a um, African setting or during African colonial times where slavery was going on in Africa. Because according to as I just read in Japanese history, Yasuke was the first African person that they saw set foot on their shore. Right now, to address black men with us, right? And I'm gonna share that part. I'm gonna share that part, and I disagree with Ubisoft doing this. And this is my opinion why. I'm gonna substantiate my argument. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Here's where I see that it may or may not be woke. Because the premise of woke is to push certain agendas or ideology, whether it be LGBT, interracialism, this, that, and the fourth. This is why I think Ubisoft put Yasuke in here. I'm going to read this. Yasuke was the first foreign-born warrior to enter the ranks. He belonged to a very small entourage around Nobunaga, which was probably around 30 to 50 warriors, mainly young men, many of whom were Nobunaga's lovers as well. Lockley says traditionally older warriors like Nobunaga, dead in his early 50s, mentioned younger warriors and developed sexual relationships with them. No evidence indicates that Yasuke and Nobunaga were lovers. Now, Ubisoft, this is where people can say that you're going woke. Because even though it's not saying Yasuke was specific was Nobunaga's lover, because nobody knows about Yasuke, y'all can make that story in that game. And if I see that this story is in the game, it's a direct disrespect to black men. Because black men were trying to escape these little stereotypes right here. Not every black man in the black culture or black American culture or on the planet is gay. Nor is every black person a gangbanger or a thug, or especially in American culture, that every black person or black man is gay, a gangbanger, or a thug. And I'm tired of that fucking stereotype. Tired of that stereotype. So if I see this in that game, I'm going to say that y'all was using woke, and you're gonna make then you're gonna make what people have been saying it being wokeism right. The only way now for those of you guys that's saying that the game is woke, the only way it would be woke is if they were going to take a character that did not exist or existed and make him black. But that did not happen in this case. In this case, they took a historical figure that was there and recorded in Japanese history, as I've just shown you in this Smithsonian Magazine article, and other articles today that existed. And until y'all can prove that he was not a samurai, as I've been showing, even though he was a retainer, so you can prove that he was not a samurai, he was a samurai. Or he was a samurai in name only. And Nobunaga had him fight as if he was a samurai, and he was Nobunaga's bodyguard. Okay. So um African. Now, I would have loved to see, rather than this crap, because in my opinion, personal opinion, this shit is bullshit by Ubisoft. Because all this is going to do is now put black men into a situation. And what I don't like about woke is that they like to use black men as the face of their debauchery and use our image to push things that black men don't agree with. And now with the backlash of this game, black men are going to get the heat and not Ubisoft. And now what it attracts there now is that the people with the mindset of racism is going to use this game to attack black men. And black men already have enough heat and hatred towards us already on our plate. So I would have rather they had just made an African Assassin Creed where they showcase how straight black masculine men in Africa had to fight European colonialism against slavery, and then either make a DLC or part two series about how the Jamaicans and the Haitians during the slave trade during the Caribbean had to fight against their oppressors. Like the Haitian Revolution, and how Jamaicans on Jamaica had to fight, I think, the Spaniards and the Brits and the rebellions that went on over there, and how a Jamaican by the name of Bookman went to Haiti and helped Haiti with their Haitian Revolution and tied that into New Orleans, into the Americas. And then you could have made an Assassin's Creed Part 3 featuring black men fighting in the Civil War, and then fighting during civil rights, and then fighting during Jim Crow. I would have preferred that than what we have now, because this does not serve black men in our image any good. It really doesn't. Because now Ubisoft, if black men go up and say, "Well, we want an African Assassin's Creed now," Ubisoft could come back and say, "Well, we featured a black man in this." Oh, give me a second. I'm getting a call. Getting a call. Give me 1 second. I'm getting a call. Who was calling me? Okay. Anyway, so yeah, because now black men, so I got to talk to black men about this, right? We have to be very careful about our image and how it's being used and who's using it and what's the intention of why they're using it. Um, because it's not just a symbol, it's what the symbol represents. Does the symbol of black men represents honor or respect, or is it being disrespectful and dishonorable to black men? And black men, we in America has already faced a lot of negative images that are not necessarily true to black men, like the image that all black men are gang banging and all black men are LGBT. That is not true. So black men, we have to be very careful about how our image is used, or it's used, what the intentions are, and what is the representation of our image and our symbol and what it represents. Um, my final judgment, right, to the people that are upset with Assassin's Creed Shadows, them using a actual historical figure or event. If you were not upset with Keanu Reeves being a made up character to start in 47 Ronin, that was an actual historical event, you can't be upset with this. If you were not upset with the Last Samurai, then you cannot be upset with this. Because with 47 Ronin and the Last Samurai, they took with 47 Ronin, what do you mean by it was a mistake? You got to substantiate your argument, Cloud, so I can answer you properly, right? What about it was a mistake? Was it that them putting the black character in there was a mistake? Because I noticed nobody's talking about the female Japanese character, and probably that is the issue. Maybe if the character was a Japanese male and there was a black dude, you know what I'm saying? Maybe yeah, would it be maybe yeah, it would be loved more often. Yeah, would accept it more. But I think, my opinion, I think it's because it's a black guy with a Japanese female that's there. When you look up what ninja were, ninjas were basically samurais that were stealthy. They didn't have the big bulky armor on. That's what ninjas were. But if you guys were not upset with Last Samurai, 47 Ronin, and Keanu Reeves' character Kai in 47 Ronin was a made up character put in a historical event. If you're not upset with that, how can you be upset with this that takes an actual historical event that was around and documented in a book called The Chronicles of Nobunaga, which is an actual book. Y'all could go read it. Then I don't understand what is the uproar about it. Now again, I say I understand the Japanese part, the Japanese culture saying we wanted a Japanese protagonist. That's what I'm saying, Cloud. Assassin's Creed was never historically accurate. As a matter of fact, if you go, hold on, stay with me, Cloud. I'm gonna see if I find something. I have to see if I find something. You just put an idea in my head. One of Assassin's Creed's mission statements when you load up the game is that we take historical events and then twist it into our own spin. Creed historical. Let me look this up. Assassin's Creed. Hold on, let me look for it. I'm gonna look for I'm gonna look for their mission statement. Because correct me if I'm wrong. Every time you load up Assassin's Creed, it does a disclaimer and it says that like these are historical events, but it has their own spin on it, basically. All right. I hope you're in the chat still, Cloud. I just found it. Share. Cloud, to read this. While each Assassin's Creed game is heavily inspired and influenced by history, they're still works of fiction. As much as we like to believe it, Ezio Auditore never fought against Rodrigo and Caesar Borgia. Edward Kenway never unlocked the observatory, and the Frey twins never fought the Templars in London. I'm gonna look up. Is Assassin's Creed good for history? Bro, bro. I just showed y'all that That's what I'm saying. Cloud, I know you just here. I know you just jumped in. I want to show you something. Let me show you something. You know how they would like to argue that Yasuke was just a retainer? He wasn't really a samurai? Watch this. Watch this. Where is it? I want to show something. Watch this right quick. I want to show you something. Retainer armor. Now, Cloud, does not the retainer armor resemble what Yasuke wears a little bit? Retainer armor. Read this now. The suit of retainer armor. A retainer refers to a vessel in feudal Japan, usually a samurai providing military service. I'm gonna show you something else. Watch this. Watch this one. This is the Smithsonian magazine I'm about to show. Right here. This is one of Yasuke's. Now, there's an argument saying why Yasuke retreated or ran from this event when one of Nobunaga's generals betrayed him. This is why it says, if you're gonna die anyway, you might as well die quicker by your own hand and retain some honor. So this is, by the way, this is the person that wrote a book about Yasuke. This was in 2019. But it says once both Nobunaga and Ranamaru were dead, Yasuke escaped from the temple with his lord's head in tow by protecting Nobunaga's remains. Yasuke denied Mitsuhide the chance to seize his enemy's head and display it as a way of establishing legitimacy and power. Basically, when Nobunaga and Ranamaru committed seppuku or suicide by their own hand, Yasuke retreated from the castle so that Mitsuhide cannot take any remains of Nobunaga's head to claim power. And I'm going to read something down here, right? Since they said that Yasuke was just a retainer, read this, Cloud, right here. One of Nobunaga's retainers, Tayotomi, I don't know how to say his last name, so sorry to the Japanese folks. This retainer right here defeated Mitsuhide at the Battle of Yamazaki and went on to become Japan's second great unifier, uniting the entire country by 1590. So they're saying that a retainer is just a slave. Hold on one second. All right, so they're saying that he was just a retainer, and a retainer is just a slave or a weapon bearer that does carry around swords and shit. But this retainer right here is he not the same thing? But anyway, it's just these goofy arguments that you see being showcased on these chats in these YouTube things about being historically accurate, even though the game says and puts a disclaimer that these may be true events, but they're not historically accurate. And again, I get it from the in general genuine people that say that are saying that they disagree with the game because the fan base was asking for a Japanese Assassin's Creed with Japanese people starring in it. I get that, I understand. But again, you have to explain to me, if you have an issue with Yasuke, why didn't you have an issue with Scott Adkins and Ninja? Why didn't you have an issue with The Last Samurai? Why didn't you have an issue with Ronin? Why you didn't have with 47 Ronin? Why didn't you have an issue with the plenty of white men that were starring into Japanese games and Japanese culture? Why you didn't have an issue then? Why was it not considered woke to be a white male or white man in Japanese people stuff, marrying the Japanese chick, beating down the leading samurai, Even though, according to Japanese culture, outsiders, a gaijins, were not allowed to be a part of samurai because a samurai was a high official caste of warrior, and only Japanese people of certain bloodlines could be a samurai. But you have movies. I think what's his name, Dolph London. I think he did the same shit, and it wasn't considered wokeism then. It wasn't considered cultural appropriation then, but it is now. So to black men, we have to be careful with our image and how it's being used. Um, my opinion is this shit is some goofy ass shit. Some goofy ass shit. All of a sudden, you want to do historical evidence, you want to do historical research, and if Yasuke existed or not. But you didn't want to do that with the Italian Ezio. You didn't want to do that with the Arab Altair. You didn't want to do that with Bayak, the Egyptian. You didn't want to do that with any other characters previous to this one. But you're doing it now. What let me just say what it is out loud. You don't want the black guy to be next to the Asian chick. But it was okay prior for white men to be around Asian women. Yeah, that he's only a retainer. But you see a retainer here that's doing something much more than just being a servant. And according to the story, that's what those shogun did or daimyos did. They would hire retainers or samurai as retainer. That's what they did. And Nobunaga paid Yasuke. He gave him money. He gave him some money. And he gave him weapons and they gave him martial training because before he was anything to Nobunaga, he was a bodyguard to Italian Jesuits. And the Jesuits or missionaries, they were not allowed to carry weapons. So they employed Yasuke to carry weapons and be a warrior. So he had some fighting skills. It's just goofy and ridiculous. But I think the main issue is that it's a black guy with an Asian chick. I think that's what the people, not the overall general people, have a genuine disagreement with it. I'm talking about the people specifically that have a racist mindset now, because I'm not calling everybody racist. I'm not calling everybody who disagrees with this subject racist. I'm not. I'm calling the Pacific people. You see what I'm saying? And it's just those Pacific people with those same Jim Crow racist remnant thoughts are having a voice into this. It didn't matter. Historically being accurate didn't matter. But again, to black men, it just sucks for us because now this is another thing that's going to bring hate and heat towards us that we already have. It's a goofy argument. And now in the future reference, if we want a Black Assassin Creed set in Africa, Ubisoft can come back and be slick and say, "Well, we had a black protagonist." And my counter to that is going to be no, because that black protagonist caused a lot of issues. So even though it was a historical figure, even though it was a historical figure and a historical event, it caused issues with a lot of people. So that's the problem it's going to be called. It's going to be. But anyway, shout out to Cloud in the chat. Shout out to those that's going to view this in the future. Shout out to those that came in and listened to me for a bit. I posted the resources in the description box in the chat, so y'all can go look this up yourselves. This is Kishati Gaming Nation. Um, Shout out to Cloud. Click the like, click the share, click the subscribe. Support my channel for future content. Check out my channel for the content that I already have. This is Kishati Gaming Nation signing off. Y'all have a good day.